Hi there, and welcome to the Mindful Marathon podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk, a run coach and pediatrician. Mindful Marathon is all about helping runners of all types to run their own race. Whether you are a seasoned runner or you're just getting started, I want to let you know that you're welcome here and that you're in the right place. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're having a great start to your week. So, I was not planning to record an episode about treadmills today, but I've actually had several of my athletes apologize to me recently for choosing the treadmill for their workout over running outside. And I wrote down some of these recent comments that they put into Final Surge, which is the app that I use to communicate with my athletes and provide feedback and talk back and forth. And some of these comments included things that said, Coach Michelle, I feel guilty that I chose the treadmill. I know I should have gone outside. I felt like I was cheating. I know it's another excuse I'm making, but I ran on the treadmill today. So, after hearing similar comments over the last couple of weeks, this really got me thinking about it and I started writing about it. Why do we make running on the treadmill mean so much? And in my journaling exercise, I realized that we weren't really actually talking about treadmills here. I think at the heart of it, we are still talking about perfectionism. We're talking about the stories that we tell ourselves when life doesn't go according to plan, which it often does not. And I think that this is a conversation that every runner, and especially my very busy professionals and women physicians, I think it's a conversation that we all need to hear. And I need to hear it. So I'm not immune to these thoughts either. And I have thought some of these things myself when I choose to run on the treadmill as well. So the surface question I often receive from runners is it okay to run on the treadmill? And I think there are deeper questions to unpack there. What we're really asking, what you're asking the coach is, does this workout still count? Am I cheating because I choose the treadmill? Am I becoming a weaker runner because I'm running on the treadmill? If I can't do it this certain way, the right way, should I even do it? And those questions show up everywhere. I think it's classic all or none thinking that's showing up. It shows up in other ways in our running. If I can't run for a full hour, why bother going out there? If I missed the Tuesday run on my plan, the whole week is going to be ruined. If I can't train for this fill in the blank race, if I can't train perfectly for this race, maybe I shouldn't sign up for it in the first place. If I'm not steadily improving, maybe I'm not really a runner. So the treadmill becomes a symbol of less than. So I want to start this conversation by asking, what story are you attaching to the treadmill? I think it's interesting that none of these athletes, none of my athletes who wrote these things were actually skipping any of their runs, right? They were still getting up early, tying on their shoes, completing the workout on the treadmill. And yet they somehow walked away from that workout feeling like they had failed. And that made me feel bad. And so I want to unpack that. Unpack, why do we make this particular thing mean so much? We don't actually judge the treadmill, right? We're judging ourselves. And the treadmill becomes evidence for a story that we've already written in our mind. So, examples. I couldn't get outside because I overslept. becomes I'm undisciplined with my training. I ran on the treadmill because it was 100 degrees outside, which feels like it is right now in the summer. That becomes I'm taking the easy way out by running on the treadmill. I skipped the group run that I planned on doing becomes I'm not a committed athlete. So, nothing about the conclusions is actually objectively true, right? We need to look at the thoughts. And also, the treadmill didn't create those thoughts, it just exposed them a little bit. So, if you've had any of these thoughts, I think the important thing to know is that I think that's normal, especially if you are a very high functioning type A, perfectionist type person. I think it's normal. But I want us to, as always, let us reframe this and find a way to bring it back to the purpose of why we're running and to be a little bit gentler with ourselves. So, my reframe is that the treadmill is actually a problem solving tool. Okay. So, instead of treating it like plan B, we need to reframe it as one more tool in your toolbox. I like a toolbox and a menu of options. And I think sometimes the treadmill is truly the smartest choice because of a variety of reasons. Those can be the weather, like right now, dangerous heat and humidity. If you live in a cold climate, when it's icy, I think I need to say and I've said it before on the podcast, I don't enjoy running on a treadmill all the time. In fact, when I looked back at my own running stats, the first run on the treadmill I did this summer during the heat wave a couple of weeks ago, that was my first treadmill run since February, when we probably had an ice storm. So I personally don't prefer it. I love being out on the trail and in nature. I have my reasons for why I personally prefer to run outside when possible, but I see the advantage of a treadmill and I see that it is the smartest choice for me sometimes. And some of those reasons may be the weather, right? Dangerous heat and humidity, or going the other way, ice and snow, thunderstorms and lightning, like safety first always. Recently, here we had wildfire smoke that came down from Canada, and it was really unsafe to be exercising outdoors. So, very smart to run on the treadmill in those cases. Other reasons would be logistical challenges. So, I have a lot of runners who are trying to get in a run before or after work. And again, safety first. If it's dark outside, you won't find me running outside for safety reasons. So, a treadmill may be the safest option. How about childcare logistics? Sometimes it's much easier to get the run in on the treadmill if you can have your kiddo next to you reading a book, right? It's logistics of how do we fit this in if you need to be close to home for a variety of reasons. I also just want to point out professional athletes use treadmills, Olympians use treadmills, elite marathoners use treadmills, not because they have to, because they can be very useful training tools. So, practical tip here before you hop on the treadmill, ask yourself what adaptation are you actually training today? So I know we've talked about this in the podcast before. Every run workout that you do has a purpose, even those easy paced runs, those conversation paced runs. So, what is the goal? Sometimes the goal is building aerobic endurance. Sometimes the goal may be practicing a certain pace for your race. For example, marathon tempo or half marathon pace. Another goal of the workout may be its recovery. So it's an easy run and we need to recover from the speed workout we did 2 or 3 days ago. The purpose may be getting time on your feet. It may be if you're running back-to-back races. Shout out to my Run Disney runners who are doing the challenge races. You may need to run several days in a row to get that time on your feet and to mimic cumulative fatigue. So there are purposes to each workout. And we can mimic the workout that we want to have on the treadmill so that adaptation happens. So the adaptations that we get from running, they don't care whether you're moving on the asphalt or on a moving belt. Your cardiovascular system doesn't know whether you are looking at the trees on the trail or at your basement wall. It's responding to effort and pace and all of those numbers and things that we're mimicking on the treadmill. I think sometimes we confuse suffering with effectiveness. So many runners subconsciously believe that harder is better, like a harder workout has to be better. So outside in miserable humidity must somehow be better than inside in the air conditioning. But think if the heat drives your effort through the roof, right? Your pace slows down. You end up cutting your workout short because you can't take it anymore. You've run out of water. And you spend the rest of the day completely exhausted and need to take a nap and miss out on time with your family. Was that actually the better workout than choosing the treadmill, right? So consistency wins. I coach professional women, including physicians and teachers and lawyers and CEOs, remarkable and amazing humans who are balancing very full lives, very full careers. Doctors who are seeing patients and have crazy call schedules and work overnight shifts and work 3 night shifts in a row, and then they're trying to fit their long run in after that. They have children with a variety of activities that they need to be there for. They may have aging parents who they're taking care of. I have clients who are world travelers. They have meetings all over the country for research that they're presenting. So life also sometimes is lifing. And life doesn't magically become easier because you decided to sign up for a race. So if your training only happens in perfect conditions, your training is probably not going to happen very often. I encourage my runners who are training for a race to practice the race conditions when possible. So it's great if you can get outside to practice your running in different settings, like variable weather, like what surface you'll be running on, road or trail. It's important to mimic elevation if your race has elevation, but that doesn't mean that 100% of your training needs to be done outside, mimicking those conditions every single time. Consistency is going to win out, and doing some of your runs on a treadmill can help us to stay consistent. Now, I want to talk about one more thing before I wrap up this episode, which is the cost of waiting. I have known many amazing women who have told me for years, like since I started Mindful Marathon years ago, that someday they'd like to run a half marathon. That's probably the most common example. But then fast forward 1 year, 3 year, 5 years later, she still wants to, and she hasn't done it yet. And it's not because she isn't capable of it, but life continues to life and time goes by very fast. We've got family stuff, work commitments, kiddo obligations, travel schedule, illnesses. She waits until next season. Next season is overwhelming for XYZ. She may start training, but then pause because conditions are not perfect. And she keeps saying, I'll train for the race someday. And years keep going by. I'll start after this vacation when work settles down, when the kids are older, when I lose weight, when I feel motivated. I've heard a lot of things. And I think this is reflective of a bigger pattern, right? It's not about the running, but where else do we wait in our lives? What if the life you're waiting for never actually comes? I think one of the big differences I see between runners who commit to the goal and reach the starting line and those who keep putting running and exercise off, it has nothing to do with talent or a baseline fitness level. It's having someone in their corner helping them adapt when life gets in the way. Left to our own devices, left on our brains easily think, I missed a few runs, I should just wait until next season. But with a coach, these moments become opportunities to adjust the plan instead of just throwing it out the window and abandoning the entire thing. Again, it's that all or none thinking that shows up for us. It's normal, but we need to recognize it so we can adapt and move beyond it. My athletes know that if it's dangerously hot, we will adjust the plan. If work gets overwhelming, we will shift the workouts. We will take a step down week where we need to and take it sooner than we were planning to if we need to. If illness or injury pops up, we will modify the plan. The goal is not to follow a perfect schedule, it's to keep moving toward the starting line. In closing here, if you have ever stepped onto the treadmill feeling guilty, I want you to know that your body is not grading where you ran. Your training plan and your coach are not keeping score of whether the miles happened outside or inside. What matters most is that you kept the promise that you made to yourself and you got the workout in. For my busy women physicians, flexibility is often the very thing that makes the consistency possible. The treadmill is not second best. It is another tool in the toolbox. It's one more way to honor your goals even when life is not cooperating. And if this episode made you realize that you've been waiting for the ideal conditions and the ideal schedule before training for your next race, that's exactly where coaching can help. My athletes don't follow perfect plans. We build plans that are flexible with real life, whether that is weather, travel, overnight calls, or a week that just does not go as expected. You don't have to figure it out alone. If you've been telling yourself that you'll sign up for a race when life finally calms down, I'd love to help you to stop waiting. Your goal doesn't need perfect conditions, but it does need a plan and a coach who can help you to adapt to those conditions. You can learn more about my coaching offerings on my website, which is mindful-marathon.com, or head on over to the show notes for the link. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend who may need some encouragement today. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the podcast so that we can reach and encourage others to tie on their sneakers and join us out there on a run. See you next time.